Welcome to Kiss the Reviews. I'm Armando. That's Corey. And today we're doing Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Before we get started, if you want to follow me or Corey on Twitter, you could follow me at Junior D's. You could follow Corey at Corey_Idol. And as always, if you want to follow the show, you could follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Kiss the Reviews. That's right. Now let's get into the cast. This film stars Tom Atkins and his mustache as Daniel Challis, Stacey Nelkin as Ellie Grimbridge, Dan O'Hurley as Conal Cochran, and Michael Currie as Rafferty. And I got one beef with this movie. And I know people that either see the thumbnail like Halloween 3 and yada, yada, yada. Oh, it's Season of the Witch. It's not part of the whatever. And I know people are pissed at this one like they're pissed at The Godfather 3. But as individual movies, I think The Godfather 3 is still a decent movie. I think this is still a decent movie.
Mm-hmm.
My beef with this movie is the goddamn names of the characters. Ellie Grimbridge and Conal Cochran. Those two names bothered me the entire movie.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit.
And Danny Challis, Dr. Danny Challis, and his mustache.
I think he just walked in and took a lab coat and was like, I'm a doctor. Because I don't see this motherfucker practice any medicine. He's a better detective than he is a goddamn doctor, I'll tell you that.
He's definitely not a surgeon or whatever he plays in this movie. He might be a gynecologist, but that's about it.
He could be.
Because
this guy's slamming ass all over Greater wherever the fuck they are.
Like, I think the script called for him to be a detective because he's outside of the first few scenes where he actually has a lab coat on. He plays a detective the rest of this movie. I think when he got to set and he's like, no. I'm a doctor now. And they're like, but you're a detective in the movie, in the script. And he's like, yeah, but look at this stash and look at that with this lab coat. I'm a fucking doctor.
Dude, he's carrying around a sixer of Miller High Life longer than he's carrying around a stethoscope.
Hell yes.
That looks like what I look like on Wednesdays when I'm like, it's America, right? I'm a doctor. I can be a doctor now. I'm a doctor. It's America. Fuck you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was in America. I'm sorry.
Let's get into this movie because there is a lot to talk about in this one. The plot is very simple, and it's something that Corey can relate to. So I say we jump into this thing because this movie, don't look at me like that. You know what I'm talking about. This movie, this movie opens on Saturday, October 23rd. We see a man, Harry Grimbridge, running from a car. He runs to a trailer, and one of the men from the car starts to strangle him, but he pulls the block out from the car, and it very gently kills this man in a suit. I have never seen a more gentle, hugging kill on screen in my entire life.
Dude, humanoid robots cost a shitload of money. You don't kill them extravagantly. That's absurd. You need to reuse those.
This was the first one off the assembly line. I'm pretty sure they made them out of like Pepsi can material. Like it was just tin.
You were correct.
The car's moving so incredibly slow. And the guy just kind of looks over and he's like, oh shit. And then he gets hit by the car. Very, very gently. It just gives him like a nah. And then he's just dead.
So he's, like you said, he's a defective robot. He's like a Model T Ford. He still has a short in his brain. Every time he opens his mouth, he goes, oh, God.
But after this, he gets away. He runs to like this gas station and he like passes out / dies, sort of, I guess, while saying they're coming. And the attendant takes him to the hospital where a mysterious suited man shows up, goes to Harry's room and kills him by poking his fingers into his eyes and basically pulling out dude's nasal cavity.
It's pretty awesome.
For as shit as the first kill was, this one made up for it.
Yeah, definitely. And don't try and pass over bullshit on me. Like, oh, the attendant took him to the hospital. I recognize Chuck Berry when I see him. That motherfucker duck walked out of that hospital when the cops showed up. He was not having any of it. And I love how Challis, like, they bring this guy into the hospital. He's still clutching this Halloween mask. They totally do, like, an exam of him in the hallway and then get him out of his clothes, but he's still holding the mask in a hospital gown. Pass the fuck out.
He never lets go. That mask is like the magic bullet.
Yeah, dude. He got the Shamrock Toys goddamn kung fu grip. He's good to go.
So Dr. Dan here then is like, hey, what the hell's going on? Oh, this guy just like broke dude's skull wide open. So he's going to go chasing him through the hospital. And when he gets outside, he sees the dude in the suit douse himself in gasoline and then light himself on fire in his own car.
That's awesome. You can't get good help like that these days.
No, that's dedication to your job right there.
Shit,
Thank you for
man.
your service. Thank you for your service, sir. Then enter Harry's daughter, Ellie. She gets to the hospital. She identifies the body. And by the way, she identifies the body. They open the thing and like, here, identify the body. Your dad's face is like pulled apart. Like he's got no nose anymore. Go ahead. Is that your dad? Like, I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. He's just brutalized.
Yeah, I always love this in movies where people are like, I need to identify the body. And they're like, you shouldn't do that. And they're like, no, I need to. Oh! Bitch, listen to somebody every once and again.
You were right.
If you want to see what your father looks like now, punch a wall 6 or 7 times and then look at your knuckle. That's what daddy looks like right now.
Go take a fistful of meat out of a meatloaf, and that's what he looks like. We cut to Friday, October 29th. Dr. Dan is at the bar because of course he is, drinking whiskey or gasoline or whatever. And he sees a promotion for the first Halloween movie and the new masks that have hit the market from Silver Shamrock Novelties. Ellie then tracks him down at the bar and they talk about her father. And Dr. Dan tells her that her father told him that they're all going to kill us. And this kicks off their awesome Scooby-Doo, like Fred and Velma fucking relationship here, where she takes him to her dad's like shop where he sells all the masks. And she's like, look at all this evidence that she's been in town for like 5 hours. She just saw her dad's smushed face. And she's like, look at all this evidence that I've gathered. And then they just start going on a fucking adventure together to the Shamrock Novelties factory.
Yeah, first off, Nancy Drew here is on the case. She ain't having it.
Yes.
And Dr. Challis here is running the dentist system like a fucking pro.
Yes, 100%.
I was taking notes, dog. It was amazing.
Dude, if there is a perfect pickup system, Dr. Danny here, Danny boy knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, like, oh, no, this girl lost her father and is looking for answers, and I just happen to have this fatherly mustache and a drinking problem. Let's fuck! Like, this is how you make stew, man. This is it. These are all the ingredients.
So Ellie and Dan go to the Silver Shamrock Novelties factory, and apparently everyone in the town doesn't take kindly to strangers. And the other issue that I have here is that these two idiots don't have a plan. They get to the factory and they're ready to just march in like, good, happened to my father. And she's like, we don't have a plan. And he's like, well, let's go back to the motel. And they're like concocting this plan in the parking lot, but right in the factory.
Yeah, in fairness, too, I think this was more on the townspeople. Because, like, if I'm Cochran here, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing some shady shit that I clearly don't want other people to know about because I'm murdering people who find out about it. Fair. So, when the whole town is like beholden to me and dependent on me, I'm like, yo, act fucking normal. If this town looked halfway normal, they'd have driven through it and just been like, I don't know, you want to get some coffee and go back? Everything is status quo here. But these fuckers are staring out the window like the town that dreaded sundown. It's clear something is topsy-turvy all over Santa Maria or whatever the fuck town they're in. Santa Mira. So yes. I'm sticking around too. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yo, we need to formulate a plan. Because once again, shit's gone topsy-turvy. This is not right. People don't just stare out windows when a fucking Lincoln's driving down the street.
Something is afoot.
Yes.
They check into a motel here and they pose as husband and wife. And after lockdown, because, you know, the town goes on lockdown at 6 p.m., they turn into husband and wife, and it's time to act like it. This is my favorite scene, not because it's a sex scene, not because you see some booby here, none of that. The situation of, hey, we're husband and wife. We've seen this in a million movies, typically like detective movies and shit, but like, sure, we'll go that route here. Yeah, we'll pretend to be husband and wife. Cool. Sun starts to set. Town goes on lockdown, and he's like, yeah, well, you could take the bed. I'll take the floor. Well, I'll go sleep in the car. And she's like, wait, you can't get another room. You can't sleep in the car. We got to look like husband and wife. And he's like, okay. And she's like, and we can act like husband and wife too. Like, she leans into it here because she obviously has daddy issues. And he's like, I'm ready to rock. Like, it's right into fucking party time here.
Oh, yeah, he wastes no time. And there's a few things about this that I love. One, she's like, where do you want to sleep? And he's like, that's a stupid question, Miss Grimbridge. Person. Like, and then he just runs over and fucking starts kissing her. Amazing.
It's fantastic.
It is brilliant. And then we get robbed of a tit shot here, which I did not appreciate, but we made up for it with the great comedy of him sucking on her nipple and her going, just like the awkward person would be if some stranger is sucking on your tit while there's a director and a cameraman and a boom mic guy over top of you holding the mic. Yo, I'd be all fucked up. She was so uncomfortable. When I watch porn and they sound uncomfortable like that, I stop watching because I feel icky.
Is it possible this story is true? Yes, it is.
I think that noise was just her trying to stop herself from giggling. You ever had a mustache on your nipple? That shit tickles. I'm just saying. She was trying to prevent the giggle, and she was like, it needs to sound sexy, and you got, like that's what you got out of it.
That's fair too.
I'm like, you just got like a party favor tickling your nipple. It's not awesome.
And you've seen some of the monsters I date. You know I've had a mustache on my nipple.
Come on. I've dated a couple Italian chicks too. They're good. So after sexy time, he goes to the liquor store. He gets some booze and he runs into a bum who spills the beans about Conal Cochran and his factory. And the bum gets then cornered by the two men in suits. And he gets his head ripped off. Again, great scene. I love it's just like a pop. I love it.
It's
I love
fantastic.
everything about it. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Their neighbor at the hotel picks up the little logo tag from the mask, one of the Shamrock masks, and she sees a microchip. So she tries to poke it and prod it, and she takes a laser to the mouth, and her face splits open. An ambulance comes, and then Cochran shows up and tells Dr. Dan and Ellie here that they're taking her to the factory for the best treat. I've got the best treatment. It's at the factory. Like, listen, okay, I don't think this.
Let me tell you about treatments.
My factory's got the best treatments. Like, I don't think this needs to be a PSA. This should be like, this is a hint and a half for your ass that there's some shady shit going on. When the guy, like the CEO from the local factory, shows up at a fucking death/murder scene and goes, we'll take her to the hospital in the dirty factory where we make fucking latex masks because we got the best treatment. Just get the fuck out of Dodge. There's no time to stick around.
No, dude. Anybody that gets taken away with a medical issue in a rape van, get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yes.
And I like how Challis is going to keep persisting, like with his questioning. Like, no, I'm a doctor now. And even Ellie's like, shut the fuck up. There's 6 fucking cult members and this dude just standing here, Cochran, looking at us with this sinister smile. Shut the fuck up. Good night. Thank you. I'm going to go back and fuck this runaway wife child I have now. Challis is like, hey man, I'm a doctor. Why's your face all blown upside down and out? Oh, wait, she got that COVID vaccine, right? She got the COVID. I'm a doctor. I know what's in the COVID vaccine. I'm a doctor.
Dude, he's shit-faced. He smells like whiskey and like burnt cigarettes and
pussy.
And 100%. And it's just like, is that jit on your pant leg? Like, dude, you're a fucking mess, guy. What's going on? He's like, you're goddamn right I am. Because I'm a fucking man. And did I tell you? I'm a doctor too. Yeah, you've told us, guy.
Yeah, we get it.
Ellie and Dan then get a tour of the Silver Shamrock factory by Cochran because, like, their other neighbor at the motel, like, everybody's becoming friends at the motel. And their other neighbor, apparently everybody from out of town that's having pickups at the factory, like, they stay at this motel. So they get this tour of the factory, and Dan sees where final processing takes place because of the gigantic sign there. And he also takes notice of all the suits guarding the place. And then this is also where Ellie sees her father's car.
Corey's life lessons.
Hi, leaders of evil schemes and plots. Uncle Corey here. The one thing you should never, ever label for the general public if you're going to be so bold as to give tours of your evil laboratory is the final processing stage where you put the evil shit into the thing you're going to unleash the evil onto the earth. Don't label that. What are you doing?
Yeah,
that should just be a blank wall where somebody like pulls down like a candlestick holder and the fucking door slides open and then slides shut. Like, there should be no way anybody can figure that out. Especially when you're like, final processing? What have you meant? Get the fuck out of here, man.
Listen, if you feel the need to put signage up like that in your factory, just put cafeteria. Can you just write cafeteria? So somebody doesn't go final processing. What does that mean?
Right. Yeah, your whole work staff is fucking robots. I think it's okay that you label something cafeteria and it happens to be no food. It's fine.
They get back to the motel and they start to pack because they're freaked out, yada, yada. Dan steps out to call the police. And when he gets back, Ellie's gone. And there's a bunch of suits waiting for him outside. He escapes through the bathroom window and he heads over to the factory where Ellie is taken. And he breaks into the factory here. And I gotta mention this. Aside from the mustachio of it all, aside from the alcoholism and the he's just slamming ass throughout this movie, he also is a very heavy walker. My guys who did the audio for this and the overlays of the footsteps, these are the loudest footsteps in any movie I've ever heard.
And I think they nailed it because this guy is done fucking around.
Oh, yeah.
And he's walking like he's fucking Dirty Harry. Anybody, any tough guy you've ever seen walk and not run, it's this dude.
Hell yes.
This scene is the favorite, is one of my favorites because it lets me talk about two things. So he gets jumped here by one of the suits, right? And he punches a hole in his gut and he realizes that the suits are all machines, that his hand is covered in goo and yada yada. But in this whole like back and forth, and as this movie progresses, like he calls his wife or his ex-wife, pardon, and his ex-wife is Nancy. Is it Nancy Keys from the original Halloween? And I think the direction for her in this movie was like, just do exactly what you did in the first one. Just be a bitch, just to your husband now instead of your friends.
Yeah, dude. Like I don't know. I feel like John Carpenter was going through something in his personal life, because this was oddly on the nose, and she was aggressively ball busting at every turn.
100%.
Now, look, I get it. You fell for a mustache twice who's an alcoholic and pretends to be a doctor on the side.
Yes.
I understand your aggravation and how pissed you are. But also, you know he's an adventurer too. He's out doing adventure shit. Leave the guy alone. Help him out.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, why you busted his balls about not being around the kids? You know what first of all, you know he's not going to be around the kids. There's going to be, like, good excuse or not, like, honey, I got cops. Like, there's literally 4 cops in my office right now because a dude just got his nose ripped off his face. And she's just like, well, why won't you take him to the fucking movies? And he's like, guy, I can't, I fucking can't. And then at the end here, as he's running around, doing his like secret shopper bullshit, he calls her and he was like, hey, you got to get the kids. Don't let him put the mask on. She's like, fuck you, Danny. Like, she don't give two shit. All her fucks are gone. She don't give 2 shits about him, his opinions, nothing. She was just like, dude, suck a dick, get the fuck out of here.
I just called the hospital and they said they'd never heard of a Dr. Challis. That doesn't even make sense.
We cut to Sunday, October 31st. Cochran takes Dan to his underground lair, because of course he has an underground lair, where he describes his exact plan of taking pieces of Stonehenge and placing it into their merchandise tags. And he then shows Dan the test subjects and the mask killing the kid, and like critters coming out of the mask and killing the mom and the dad. And like, so the whole family's dead.
Yeah. And look, I can tolerate all the people who are like, no, there's no Michael Myers in this. Great. John Carpenter wanted an anthology. Like, Michael Myers was never supposed to be a continuation character. He was part 1 in more movies to come, just based around scary shit in Halloween.
Yeah.
So, with that said, we just couldn't do computer bleep blops and fleep flops. Like, we have to bring Stonehenge into this and magical ray powers, chipping the rock. The fuck out of here.
Dude, that was the funniest
You'll
shit.
never believe it's how I got Stonehenge here in me Lucky Charms. The fuck you. I'm out. Like, am I drunk now? What is happening? Stonehenge. That's why people hate this movie. Because you brought fucking Spinal Tap into this movie for no reason.
This one goes to 11. Cochran then ties Dan up in front of a TV, explains the Halloween sacrifices and witchcraft, and how this whole plan is the best joke of all. A joke on the children. And then he puts one of the masks on Dan and turns the TV on and he leaves. And this is where I went.
Thought Fozzie Bear was a bad comedian.
Waka waka. So this is where I went, oh my God. I know Corey was like a young child at this point, but I'm like, did you have a hand in writing this? Only you can come up with this. You and John Carpenter can come up with a storyline that's like, what's the motivation? What's the motivation for the bad guy? He hates kids, wants them all to die. Fucking nailed it. That's what we're doing. It's the best motivation for like a mass murderer ever.
I genuinely have not identified with the villain this much since Thanos. Like, I was like, he's making some pretty good points here.
Dude, this whole thing, like we get to the end of his fucking fakakta story about like, the kids and Halloween and witchcraft and like I hate kids and this is a trick on the kids. I'm like, fucking cool story, guy. You're gonna go to this elaborate length. Just kill some kids. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I agree. If you want to kill some kids, there's got to be an easier way than chipping away pieces of stone. Just getting it over there, you couldn't even explain it with the plot. You're like, you don't want to know. No, I think like you brought it up. You want to tell me how you got it here. Tell me. Don't even ask me how I got it here. You don't want to know, laddie. I didn't. I did. Clearly, you want to tell me. Just tell me how you got it here. I can't.
Let me guess.
Because it makes no fucking sense.
Let me guess.
You jerk off.
You got the machine suits to go pick up the goddamn rock and put it onto a fucking truck and you shipped it over here. Yeah, I got the plan, guy. It's not that difficult. There's not a human to be found. They're all machines. You're the only real person, and they do everything you say. Let me guess. You got 30 of them to go pick the fucking giant rock up from Stonehenge, and you brought it over. Am I in the ballpark? Cool. So Dan then escapes here. He kicks the tube out. He cuts himself free. He then goes through the vent and goes cruising around the factory, and he saves Ellie, and they sneak into Cochran's underground lair. They're literally staring right at him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, hey, stay right here. I'm going to sneak towards the people. And literally there's 43 people. 20 of them are staring directly at him. And he's like, beep, boop, 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 beep. Like, what are we doing here?
And well, look, this is by far the best battle cry against automated workforce. Because all these robots are, their task is their task.
Yes.
Nothing else. A human would have been like, you guys smell rye whiskey? Like, David, did you take a shower today? Did you? I smell stink dick, motherfucker. You stink. I smell you.
I smell.
And they'd be like, it's not me. David's like, it's not me. Oh, look at that guy. Who's that? And then boom, he's busted.
Look, it's a human cigarette with a mustache. Like, go get that guy.
Look at the Marlboro Red in a members only jacket. Can we take him out?
The dude was just hiding behind his mustache. He was just like,
he was.
So he goes and he starts playing the commercial. Boom, 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 boom. Dan then climbs up the stairs. He drops all the microchips on everyone. They all go bye-bye, except for Cochran. And then Stonehenge gets upset and turns Cochran into dust, and Dan and Ellie get away. And as they drive back home, Dan is still hearing the commercial. Ellie attacks him because she's a robot now, and they crash the car, and he sees that she's now this like robot person of Cochran's, and he fucks her up with a tire iron. My favorite part of this is he sees her, the arm rip off. And he's like, he gets out and like she's got the little nub, of wires or whatever, and it's squirting shit. And he's like, oh shit, you're a robot. And he proceeds to pound her with the fucking tire iron. The fact that he goes from like, this is my best girl, and I'm drunk and let's smoke cigarettes and bang, and then like, oh, you're a robot, just brutalizes the shit out of her here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was hearing his ex-wife's voice that whole time.
He saw the look she gave him in the car, and he was like, I've seen that shit before.
Yeah, he's like, fuck this.
After he gets to the gas station here, the movie ends as apparently he calls the president of the United States to cut the commercial from airing, and 2 channels do it, but not the third. And we end on this cliffhanger. And I was like, who the fuck is on the other end of this phone call? Because listen, I don't know if it's kind of like streaming services. Okay. Back in the day, you had the 3 local channels. They were all owned by separate companies. It's not like, some of this is where it's a conglomerate. You can call the president of ESPN or whatever, and they own fucking everything, or Disney or whatever.
Yeah.
You had to call like 3 to 5 different people at these fucking stations. He's on the phone with one person, and apparently it's like the Secretary of State, and he's like, dude, you got to shut these commercials down.
Dude, dead ass in the middle of the night. He's on the phone with the FCC on Halloween, issuing directives on advertising.
I'm a doctor. You need to turn this shit off. It's not good for the kids.
This is Admiral Challis, head of the FCC, as appointed by President Jimmy Carter. Turn it down. Turn it down. Turn it down. I don't want no more. Turn it down.
I was in America. I'm sorry.
It's little shit like this throughout this movie that made me piss my pants. We get to the end, and it's like, ooh, cliffhanger. Well, they didn't come up with the second part for this one. So you're just going to have to end on the cliffhanger, folks. I got to the end of this movie, and I was like, I surprisingly really enjoyed that. Because I didn't think I was going to like it. It's been forever since I've seen it. And all I've done since I saw it last, I talk shit about it for eons, decades even.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, this isn't part of Halloween, the Halloween franchise. And this one is the sore thumb and yada, yada. The same shit you've heard from a lot of people throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a different take on it now. And it's the whole Godfather take. Yes, it is part of the franchise, and it's a decent movie in its own right. There's a lot of ridiculousness going on, but it's ridiculousness that I enjoyed. It was entertaining.
Yeah, this is something different. I mean, aside from the amazing plot point of just murdering every child in the world.
It's such a great plot.
I think it's amazing. And half their fucking breeding parents, because they just make more, those little fuckers.
Yes.
But like I genuinely wanted to watch Dr. Challis go on adventures. I wanted this to be a series where he just runs into different adventures throughout his life. And he's this badass drinking, fighting fucking son of a gun who's just roaming the fucking world like Kane and Kung Fu. That's what I was like, where's that series? I don't care what you name it. Call it the Challis Files if you need to. But I want to see that shit because it sounds amazing.
I got a new title for your show. It's Dr. Challis Medicine Drunk. Like that's the new name that's the name of his show. He just goes on adventures and solves crimes and shit. And he's just, drunk all the time. He just smokes, like he just crushes cigarettes all day.
But nobody talks about his alcoholism. Nobody talks about the way he smells or just way to go, bro. They're just all in awe of him. He's like Jack Reacher with a medical degree. It's amazing.
And a great mustache.
But no, like the bad guy is your typical old man bad guy.
Yeah.
Every part of this movie's just fun. Like if you go into this like, I have to take it seriously because it's a horror movie, but it's not a horror comedy, so they have to get the fuck out of here. This is just a fun horror movie where you don't have to put much thought into. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking way too much about real life these days, and a horror movie like this is fucking appreciated.
You were right.
I had a great time with this movie. I think your idea is fantastic, and they should bring back the Dr. Challis series and do something where, he's like the A-team and he just travels across the country and he helps families in need and he solves crimes and all that kind of shit. I think that would be great.
Fuck yeah, man. Have him be like Doctors Without Borders and he's just traveling the world, kicking ass.
I love it. Okay. One quick question and then we'll end the show. We get the Dr. Challis show greenlit. Who plays Dr. Challis right now?
Me.
Of course.
I think I got it.
Who?
Nick Offerman.
Actually, you know who would do really well in that role?
Who's that?
Mark Ruffalo.
I'll give you Mark Ruffalo.
You put a mustache on Mark Ruffalo and, rough him up a little bit. That's a smoking, drinking fucking doctor right there, buddy.
I like
fighting. He can pull it off.
I think so. I'll go. I think Nick Offerman and Mark Ruffalo should fight for it in the ring.
That'd be sad. Because I think Ruffalo would get the shit kicked out of him. That's not even a contest in real life.
I think so. But that's all I got, man, for this one. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right, man. Well, for Corey, I'm Armando. This is Kiss the Reviews, and this was Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.